Welcome back to my channel, guys. My name is Alana Marie. I'm a filmmaker, digital content creator, and video content coach, helping other content creators move their content from ideation to execution. Today, we are going to be talking about some of the common misconceptions being spewed in the world and on the internet about documentary filmmaking. So if you are someone who is interested in ever creating a documentary, in the process of creating a documentary, or just interested in the topic as a whole, sit down, put your seatbelt on, let's go for this ride. Misconception number one is that you need to know how to operate a camera in order to call yourself a filmmaker. And this ideology kept me pressed unnecessarily for a very long time. When I share this concept, I always bring up the fact that whenever you go to the movies and if you ever stay to the end credits, do you know how many names are attached to films? Not just narrative and fiction films, documentary films, but films in general, right? Do you know how many names are attached to that? And you look at the name and then you look at the role right across from it. It takes a team to make a film, and you don't have to be the one to know how to operate the camera in order to call yourself a filmmaker. You have every right as the creator of that story to call yourself a filmmaker. And so when I started my journey of creating my documentary, I hired somebody to be my DP, my director of photography and camera operator. Granted, I also wanted to learn how to operate a camera. And so a lot of YouTube, a lot of LinkedIn courses, and a lot of watching my camera operator do what he does when we were on set, but also taking the time to learn as I go and not use it as an excuse to hinder me from completing my project. You do not have to know how to operate a camera in order to call yourself a filmmaker. Call yourself a filmmaker. Another misconception is that you need to have a film degree in order to create films. That is not true. This is also not bashing those who have decided to go to school for film. I think it just depends on your temperament and where you are. Can you afford to go? There are a lot of different factors, but in 2020, there are several low to no cost resources that would help you build your skill set as a filmmaker. I did not go to school for filmmaking. I actually went to school for communication for undergrad. I actually thought I was going to go into public relations. I'll go through that in another video. It's funny how the world works. And my graduate degree is actually in social work. I am a social worker by trade. And in my graduate program is where I figured out I wanted to become a storyteller. I had to go to school for those 2 years to learn that I don't want to be a traditional social worker, but I do care about the issues that plague communities, the Black community specifically, and I want to be an aid to help mitigate those social ills. And the way that I can do that best is through storytelling. And so I worked on that gift and that skill set through my social work degree program. And while I do believe that you don't necessarily have to go to school, to film school, in order to become a filmmaker, you should get some type of education. You should learn and pick up any type of resource, watch videos, check out books, get hands-on experience and education about the industry. Don't just go in all willy-nilly because you watched Netflix one day and became inspired. Let that inspiration push you to want to learn more about how you are as a filmmaker and as a creative, and try out different areas within filmmaking to learn what it is that you enjoy about it, what don't you like about it. I love the director's process and the director's chair. I love engaging with my subjects and interviewing. I don't like being the camera operator. I'm still teaching myself because I want to know it, and I want to know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the screen. And I want to be able to provide concrete feedback to my camera operator about the different shots that I want him to film when we are shooting. But also, I don't enjoy editing either, but I know how to do it. And I wanted to know how to do it so I could also provide concrete feedback to my editor when he is editing. I want to have familiarity with each part of the process, and the only way I could do that was to educate myself. Back in 2017, when I graduated from graduate school, there was a media training program that was launching called Continuity in St. Louis, whose mission was to expand diversity within media production. And so they offered a program for adult novice filmmakers and experienced filmmakers who were interested in learning the pre-production all the way to post-production process. It was a 36-week media training program throughout the duration of 9 months, and that is actually where I got my hands-on training. Being in that program is where I got the opportunity to be a production assistant for a documentary being shot in St. Louis. And Continuity is also where I created the short version of my full feature documentary that I'm working on now. So while I did not go to school and have a degree for filmmaking, I did get some type of education, some type of training in order to further enhance my skill set. I know that was kind of long-winded, but I wanted to hit the nail on the head and the body. I hope I did. A third misconception, an ongoing misconception, an annoying misconception is that you have to own expensive film equipment. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. So when I first started this journey, I owned a Canon Rebel T5. Granted, that is not what I used to shoot my documentary, but I didn't own any expensive equipment. I couldn't afford any expensive equipment. I learned about different resources along the way, and I brought people on my team that knew how to operate and own certain equipment. So my camera operator actually owns a 4K camera, and we used his equipment to shoot the documentary. There were also occasions, even when I'm working with clients, before I got the Canon 80D that I use now, I would rent out cameras for a much cheaper price. They're about to start working in the front yard next door. Let me speed this up. But I would rent equipment for a much cheaper price over the weekend, because the thing about camera equipment, if you rent over the weekend, because they charge by the day, I will rent on a Friday and use it that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, return it that Monday, and you still get charged for that one rental day, which was that Friday. Sorry, on my head, I need to oil my scalp. But you don't have to own expensive camera equipment. I would say get familiar with the type of equipment there is out there, how you want your film to look when shooting, building your team and working with people who do own it or who knows where to get it for a lower cost. But do not go out and spend buku money on equipment that you don't even know how to use. I would highly recommend, I don't know what stores are offering this during COVID, but renting equipment to get familiar with it. It's a lot cheaper. Get some practice in, get some, experience in, bring it on set, go on YouTube and play around with the camera while the video was playing and just get some experience. But by no means do you need to be an expensive equipment owner. A fourth misconception is that you need to have a lot of money in order to make a documentary. Making films does one of them costs money. It does cost money. Budgets vary across productions all over, right? And so while there could be a standard, I don't even know what the standard is. I was able to create a 45-minute rough cut version of my film for under $5,000, and that $5,000 came from 2 local grants. Granted, I am in post-production of my film and it is going to take more than $5,000, but this isn't Marvel Studios, Warner Brothers, Tyler Perry. You do not need these $1 million budgets in order to create a film. You can create an extremely low budget film. You can use your iPhone. You can use, if you have a DSLR camera, you can use that to create a quality film. There are films, short films, long form documentary films that were produced for a very, very low cost, but also understand in discerning between cutting costs and just being extremely cheap. 2 completely different things. So utilizing the resources that you have and not letting that deter you from moving forward with your film. The resources, I'm a firm believer in, as you continue to take the steps in creating your film, the resources will be allotted to you. I, as a first-time filmmaker, received 2 different grants on, well, one of them I didn't get it the first time I applied, but I got it the second time. And there are people who I've met who have been in the industry for a long time who didn't get a break with receiving a grant years after they've been in the industry. And me, as a first-time filmmaker at the time who was only in it for a couple of months, was able to get awarded small grants that helped me incrementally produce material that eventually brought me to my successful Kickstarter campaign that I launched this past April, and was able to raise over $20,000 in my campaign as a first-time filmmaker. I'm going to create a video about the process of my crowdfunding campaign in the near future, but just keep that in mind. The next misconception is that you need to be in the know with rubbing elbows with people in the industry in order to create your film. You do not need to have several connections within the film industry in order to produce a film. As far as documentary filmmaking, I will say that. Now, granted, there are some fellowships or film opportunities or labs, more prestigious ones, maybe like Sundance or Tribeca, where it may be on a who do you know type basis, but we're talking about creating your film. We're talking about getting it done, and you do not need to be worried about rubbing elbows with people in the industry in order to create your work. It is your work. Nobody is going to love and put as much time and energy into creating this film as you will. And so going and itching and scratching and trying to figure out who do I need to contact, who do I need to call, like, lean into your peers, lean into people who are in the industry in your city, in your state, people who are trying to get involved at the same rate that you are, and you all climb together. Like, there were other Black female filmmakers who were starting off just like I was, or who may have been a couple of steps ahead than I was, that were willing to help, and we bartered. We bartered different skill sets, whether it be I'm on your set for the day and I'm shooting B-roll for you, or whatever it is that we needed to do, we climbed together. And so the more time that you waste trying to figure out how to find somebody's email or contact, that's more time away from actually getting your film made. Those connections will come, trust me. The sixth misconception about documentary filmmaking is that Netflix has to be the goal. That is not true. It would be awesome to have my film air on Netflix. I watch Netflix almost on a daily basis. I love the content, Netflix originals, as well as other films that they acquire from documentary filmmakers. I love watching documentaries on Netflix, but that is not going to deter me from completing my film if it does not get seen on Netflix. One thing that I told myself at the very beginning of this journey, if my film didn't leave my laptop, if it did not get out of the editing software, I was still going to finish it, because what else am I doing this for? It was my personal goal, and I'm just that competitive, and I'm just that prideful. If it did not leave my laptop, it was still going to get done. And there were other streaming platforms, Hulu, Amazon Prime, iTunes. There's traditional broadcasting on television. There are different options to get your work seen if you wanted to upload to YouTube. Really figuring out what it is that you're creating this film for will help you along the way in deciding, okay, what am I doing this for? Okay, so what is the best way to meet this goal and for other people to see my work? Is it for other people to see your work, or is it for you to create your film? Neither one is wrong. It's just really, I told y'all I was getting ready to start working next door. Y'all hear that? You made me lose my train of thought. Don't let the idea of will or want my work be seen on Netflix prevent you from starting and completing your film. Okay, so those are some of the common misconceptions that have fallen along my path, and that I've seen other filmmakers get hiccuped by these common misconceptions along their filmmaking journey as well. And so when you see these, when these come up on your radar, when you're feeling these, just understand that this does not have to be true for you. You do not have to claim that over yourself, and to work on shifting your mindset towards my goal is to start and complete my film. The resources will come to me as long as I continue to move forward and put steps towards the completion of your film. It will work out for you. With that said, fellow documentary filmmaker and video content creator, if you are needing help fleshing out those ideas and moving those content ideas from ideation to execution, if you need to sit down with somebody to flesh out those ideas and really get your story structured together, I do offer 60-minute consultations for other documentary filmmakers and video content creators. I love talking about video content. I love talking about documentary filmmakers. I love helping other content creators of color get their work out. We are in a season where content is king, and because we don't know when production is going to gear back up in Hollywood, where was it right now, y'all? Where was it? So it's time for us to take advantage of that opportunity and ride this wave and really put our best foot forward in creating the content and really betting on ourselves and believing in ourselves and creating a team along the way. And I would love to be a part of your journey and helping you get to that place. I will leave links below in the description box regarding the setting up times to schedule your consultation, and I am more than happy to help. So until next time, and cut.